I'm gonna start recording for everyone who couldn't attend today. Sounds like everyone can hear me now. Okay, awesome. So let's see. I can't make a thing in the announcement. Okay, I'll just message Kathleen quickly, and then we can get started. Okay, awesome. So I've got Discord open, so if you want to, if at any point in time, if anyone wants to post questions to the Discord, or if you're joining from YouTube, then we can also do that, and I can check the chat here. Okay, great. I've got both open. I'm ready to go. Oh, that's probably mirroring for everyone here. So let's bring this over here, and then okay, good. Just trying to, I feel like I have 1,000 screens open right now. Okay, great. I've got chat from both visible so anyone who wants to attend. Okay, so first of all, thanks everyone for attending. I'm Garth Laidlaw. I'm a Sheridan grad from 10 years ago this year, and my year actually just had our 10-year reunion this year, which is really nice. So I went to Sheridan a while ago, and it has changed drastically since then. But thankfully, since I've been tutoring and teaching students for the last actually 10 years, since I've been graduated for that long, and yeah, things have changed so much. So it's a totally different ball game than what it used to be. But probably if you're tuning in, you're hoping to get in. I'm guessing in this coming year, the 2023 intake year. So. Yeah, it's both an amazing time to apply and also slightly scary. And I'm sure all of you are very aware of the scariness. But basically, Sheridan's animation program is one of the most notoriously difficult programs to get into. And that's for a whole bunch of reasons. But one of the things that I've noticed is that, well, when I was applying, actually, the average to get into Sheridan was it was actually considered high back then. But it's really kind of low when I think about it now. Now, I think last year, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone that applied last year, I'm sure there's some of you, I think the domestic cutoff was 89%, which is very high, and the international cutoff was like 93 or 94, I think. I'm not sure if that's 100% right. It's been almost a year. But it was extremely high either way. So whether you were applying from Canada or elsewhere, extremely high portfolio cutoff rate. And I think a big part of why that is that everyone these days are posting their successful portfolios online. And that's amazing. It's great because all of you get to see that and you can all absorb what kind of work Sheridan is looking for and what kind of work scores highly, right? So that's great, but the only problem is everyone else also all sees that. At least all the ones that are very, very interested, they see that. They watch those videos. They watch the same videos that you do. So it's tricky because you need to find ways to kind of break through the noise a little bit and stand out. Basically, that's kind of part of your goal here. Aside from being a great artist, technically, in your skills that you can demonstrate, you also want to be, among the thousands of portfolios, you want to stand out a little bit. So I think that kind of goes without saying, but it's just increasingly difficult these days since there's so many people that have kind of... My audio's still working, right? I just, for some reason, my audio turned off. Could you... Oh, and Kathleen... Could somebody just say yes that you can still hear me? Seems like the stream is slightly delayed. Oh, great. Okay. Great. I got some yeses. So, where was I? Great. For some reason, my audio totally sounds differently now, but okay, all good. Yeah, and somebody asked about my year, and my graduation year was 2012. So, yeah, A lot has changed. And honestly, some of the portfolio requirements are actually a lot more creative now. They involve a lot more imaginative, kind of fantastical thinking, which is really great because we're dealing with animation. We're not going to something like fine arts. So, the background, the two layouts that you have to do for your portfolio, they used to be draw a person in a room and then draw the room from that person's point of view. So it was very much like a somewhat boring perspective exercise to kind of show your skills that you can draw perspective. And some people started to add like imaginative elements into the room, so they'd put like a ghost in the room as if like you were seeing that ghost. And then I think what they did is they took that and ran with it, and now it's just two really fun kind of imaginative backgrounds. It's like an interior and an exterior, and how you design those is totally up to you. And if you want to do it in a cartoony style, that's fine too. So it's very much, it's more directly appropriate for animation. And also they've added the short animation, which is obviously a direct relation to animation that you're actually animating. Kathleen. So yeah, it's neat that they've changed the portfolio so much over time, but in some ways like the skills remain. It still requires the same kinds of skills to be able to get in. But the approach, I would say, is quite different. Okay. Sorry, we just got a question already. This is an easy one, so I'll just answer this right away. Somebody says, I'd love to know if there's any idea of the schedules for the full portfolio bundle. Oh, you're talking about our portfolio bundle. Where is it? That's right. Oh, here it is. I'll talk about this in a little bit, but this is a series of courses that I offer that hopefully update the screen soon. And so in terms of timing, whoever signs up for it in Dimation, whoever signs up for the bundle gets to vote on when those courses are. So it doesn't really matter what time zone you're in, because you'll get to participate. And so yeah, so with all of our online courses, if you're taking the group class, then you get to vote on when the class occurs. So it will work with your schedule because you get to cast a vote. And I always try to pick a time that works for everyone. And we have alternative arrangements for those that can't attend the live meetups that work really well too. So anyways, I'll talk more about my courses and what PortPrep does in a little bit, but I just want to talk a little bit about what I promised you guys in the Sheridan Hopefuls Discord. So those that are attending straight from YouTube, probably most of you are from the Sheridan Hopefuls Discord, but if not, the Discord is a great learning space for everyone that wants to get into the Sheridan's animation program. There's tons of great servers on there, great discussion threads, great sharing of resources. I've even got a whole bunch of new resources thanks to it. A bunch of great art book PDFs landed in there somehow. Really awesome. I really like this community. And I try to stay fairly active in the Q&A thread in particular, because that's sort of, as an ex-portfolio success, I try to answer as many portfolio questions as possible. So basically, aside from my own work, I do teaching, and I also am a freelance illustrator and animator. So I've been doing that since I graduated. So I took a bit of a different approach. I didn't go the studio route. I've been a freelancer since I finished school. So I've been doing art sort of on my own, built my own business, and yeah, it's great. I love it. I can't recommend it enough. Even though I'm sure most of you will go the studio route, that's totally fine. But anyways, that's getting far ahead of ourselves. We just want to get into the program. So I promised everyone that this would be about, I was going to do a talk specifically about effective time management on a weekly and monthly basis, and also how to avoid burnout, which can stop your chances of getting in to Sheridan in its tracks if you're overworking yourself, which is something that I can't stress enough because I see that literally all the time. There's a certain percentage of our students every year that this happens to, and I don't see them anymore in February, and usually mid-January is where they start to drop off after the Christmas break. And mental health and expectations will be a high priority in this presentation. So, okay, so the first thing, effective time management. So what does that look like? You all say, looking at me from high school, potentially. A time management is something that, honestly, I didn't really have a good sense of prior to Well, honestly, prior to about first year of animation, because first year the work requirements of the program are so different than what you'll probably have experienced in high school. It's just it's very it's not it's actually easy to maintain if you show up all the time and actually put in a certain amount of work each day. It's just that I think in high school people can get away with a lot more. So you don't have to put 100% into everything. But I found with animation, it felt a little bit more like almost like a classical art school that you might have heard about. You know, very rigorous, very like high expectations of being able to finish work and complete everything to a very high degree of artistry all the time. So it's kind of constant. Like in your courses, it starts kind of slow. You're like, you know, in second, third week, and it's like, oh, I've got like a couple little bits of homework. But then suddenly the next class gives you homework, and then the next class gives you homework, and then suddenly all of these assignments are due like kind of at the same time. And so it very much places the ball in your hands for how you're going to kind of manage your time to get that done, which is very much the same experience that you're having right now as you're starting to probably plan for this portfolio season of 2022, 2023. It's like you it seems like you have many months, right? You have September, October, November, December, and then there's always a break around the holidays where people take it easy a little bit from maybe high school, maybe college, maybe working full time. And in January and February, that's when so much of the work tends to happen. So what I would love to do with all of you is to encourage you as much as possible to not leave all the work till January and February. I mean, 2 months for you probably feels like a lot of time, but it only feels like a lot of time because you've got the borders of those months, right? The transition from January to February and from December to January. It makes that time seem like a much longer amount of time, but really it's only really like 8 weeks left pretty much after Christmas, and maybe a little bit less even, considering, you know, you're maybe in school or you're working. There's other things going on in that time as well. It doesn't pause so that you can do your portfolio. Although many students do actually put a pause on some of their courses, whether it's in art fundamentals or high school, or take less shifts if they're working to spend on their portfolio. But again, I think if you plan ahead and you kind of like pace out your next several months a little bit, you don't really have to do that. You don't really need a crunch time. I say that optimistically because I honestly, even with all my freelance projects, there's always a crunch time. There's always a little bit of like, you know, even if I planned it perfectly and a really nice use of time, there's still usually a little bit that's a bit of an intense rush towards the end. So I don't know. But that said, I have had some students as well that started working like fully like now, basically, like or even have started over the summer, or at least did some practices over the summer. I had another Q&A back in June where I kind of told you about some things that you could get started on over the summer. So hopefully some of you maybe did some of those things. I hope. Let's see some comments. So even if you're just starting now, you've still got tons of time. However, you shouldn't think that way. You shouldn't think that you have tons of time. You should start working now as if it's due, like quite soon. I think that's a really great approach, actually. You know, just like you start now and you work consistently through the next several months. And and that's the best case scenario. So I have the portfolio guidelines from 2022, and I can absolutely post them. I'll send them to everyone who's attending this. You can take a look at that. There's other examples too from past years. It hasn't changed too much in the last like 5 or so years. The things that do change are the topic and character of the storyboard, and the short animation object that you're moving in the short animation. But things that stay pretty much the same with mild adjustments every now and then. Life drawing, hand drawing, character design hasn't changed for quite a while. The layouts have been pretty consistent. The wording has gotten a lot more clear, but generally it's the same for the past several years. And the personal work, you're allowed a lot more personal work now than when I applied, but pretty much that's still the same. So yeah, there's a lot that doesn't change very much. And unless we get a very, very odd year this year, then it probably won't change very much again. So there's really so much that you can do to get started on. You know, like you don't have to wait until you, I mean, hopefully if you're all applying this year, then you will have done that through the Ontario Colleges thing, that portal where you technically apply to programs. Actually, everyone, those who really know about this, is it available to apply anytime? For some reason, I remember that you could apply at any point in time, and then, but they wouldn't necessarily recognize it until September, October or so. They'd be like, all right, you've applied. And then in usually October or November, that's when you actually get the requirements of that year, which is kind of crazy because that only gives you like a few months. So that's why I really, really highly recommend that everyone gets started like now. Basically, as soon as I'm talking to you, you can start your hand drawings, you can start your character drawings. Before 2019, they had specific prompts for the perspective line drawings. I don't remember that. I think the perspective line drawings have always been quite open-ended. Usually it's just like an interior and an exterior, but they used to call it an aerial view, and that made everyone confused because they got all these top-down views, like it's like you're viewing a map because it sounds like you're like aerial. Yeah, it was very confusing. So they changed the wording of that, but other than that, I don't think there was ever like a theme in perspective. Oh, okay. So Rachel is saying that only around October is when you can technically apply. Okay. Anytime past October. Okay. So maybe you can't apply now. That's yeah. Okay. Good to know. Well, it doesn't matter because you can't really get the portfolio requirements until November anyways. So yeah, whatever. So there isn't really a prompt for the hand drawings. The hand drawings just say they need to be doing an action. So they need to, and usually they give you, I guess there is a little bit of a prompt. It's usually like interacting with an object or tossing an object. And then you kind of get to fill in the blanks there. So there's a very, very simple prompt, but otherwise, yeah. So anyone applying for 2023, is there anything that I can or should do at the moment to prepare? Oh, geez. Everything. I mean, what you could, if you're a far ways off from applying, really the best thing that you can do other than just continually work on improving your skills over time is also absorbing as much content as you can in terms of like the past portfolios that have been successful. You want to be able to really model what kind of work you want to hand in, especially for your personal work, based on what others have had great successes with. That's so you really want to be like a learning sponge at this point in time, especially if you're not even applying this year but you're applying the next year. So Dana, you're ahead of the game here, and it's great to be in this community. You're hearing from people, and as the portfolio season unfolds, you're going to see everyone's work show up in this thread, and you'll be able to watch it and see how everyone does, and then see the marks and see what gets in. And so I love seeing that. I love watching too, because every now and then, not saying any names, last year, the portfolio marking's completely crazy, in my opinion. It was just completely thrown upside down. It was totally different than every other year that I've ever had students. So I think that was because of the teacher strike, and there have been many folks that I've heard lots of discussion around what went on last year, but the marks were definitely weird. The marks were way weirder than I've seen before. So, I don't think that'll happen again. Probably they'll have the normal portfolio reviewers again. Yeah, so this is a great question, Frida. What is the most common mistake people make when preparing a portfolio? It's really what I'm talking about. I can't emphasize this enough. It's pretty much lack of time management and not pacing things out properly. So rushing certain assignments at the end. Because anything that's rushed looks like it's been rushed, obviously, right? So teachers are so familiar with seeing artwork from so many different students. So they know when something looks rushed. They know when one work is dramatically less strong than the rest of the work. So that's a huge part. It's just like, but really that comes down to time management, what we're talking about today. Another thing is just, I would say, not necessarily like copying, not plagiarizing, but making the same kind of content that already exists so frequently. It's like people, everyone that applies to animation are usually like big fans of animation, obviously. So they'll, whatever is the most current show, they'll grab characters from that and then do something similar to that. So it's very like, it's kind of more, it's more of a mirror view of like what's going on right now versus like something that you're interested in internally that you bring into your portfolio because that's what you're passionate about. I think that is hugely undervalued, and I see too much just modeling what already exists in the animation industry versus trying to like do something fun and different, like taking inspiration from a folktale or something. Isn't there an in-person critique at the school? There is an in-person. Oh, like a portfolio review day, I think is what you're meaning in Damnation. So, yeah, there is. There's a portfolio review day. It's very quick. It's very, very, very brief. I can't emphasize that enough. They'll tell you a few things that you need to work on, but it's very minimal. So just like, beware. It's not too long. So many people that show up. There's thousands of people that show up, I believe. Oh, that's a good question. Should I not take too many examples from the 2021, 2022 portfolios because of the weird marking? I mean, I don't know across the board. I had a lot of students last year, and some of the marks were completely haywire. Some of them were more, I could have guessed, but there were some that were so strange, like that I still am completely confused by. So, both on the positive and negative ends of the spectrum, by the way. Like there was Life Drawing that got 9 out of 10, and I was like, that's not a 9 out of 10. That's like a 6 out of 10, maybe. And then somebody got like a 10 out of 15 on their animation. I'm like, no, that's not 10 out of 15. And I know this because I've seen them marking over the years, and I can like compare their inconsistencies. And sometimes last year there are inconsistencies, I can say. So I don't know what that was all about. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that, Frida, about getting a tutor. That's what I do. So again, I'm coming here with that from that bias, is that, but also so PortPrep, that's the company that I work for. It's just me and Karen, really. We're a very small company, but PortPrep, we are tutors. That's literally what we do. And the reason that we did this and started this very tiny company is because of my experience in art fundamentals. If anyone is in art fundamentals or is going into it, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about that. Because although art fundamentals was super fun, emphasis on the fun in fundamentals, it was a bit of a, it wasn't really what I was thinking it would be. I thought it would be more preparation for animation, but it was a much more general arts program and very general. It felt more like an extension of the kind of art courses you'd take in high school to me. Like it was so non-rigorous. Like you could kind of do the homework any which way and it was fine. You know, that kind of thing in high school? It was like that. It was like just, okay. So there's some folks that are going to art fundamentals, so now I'm hesitant to mention. I mean, art fundamentals is extremely valuable for meeting friends that you're eventually going to probably be in the program with. The friends that I met in art fundamentals were my roommates for the next 4 years. So that was super valuable, right? Like without that experience, I might have had to like change living arrangements every year or something, but I met a bunch of great friends and then we just lived together for the next 4 years. So art fundamentals is great for certain things. But yeah, so it's not as geared towards animation. Although it does have lots of life drawing, and you can go do as much extra life drawing as you want. So it's valuable for that. And there's a few other little things that are valuable, but it's very much a general arts program. It's not like you're going to be drawing characters and making designs and stuff unless things have really changed. But it's kind of it's the program that anyone goes to where they don't necessarily know where they want to go to next in art. So it gives them a wide range of different skills to kind of experience and to see what works for them to ideally take something else. But well, again, this is what PortPrep, this is the reason we started this, is that there's a huge gap of like between high school learning, where you are with your art skills in high school, and where you need to be in animation. And art fundamentals for me, I just squeaked into animation, honestly. Like, my portfolio was just the passing grade of my year that I applied. And I was like, that was not good enough, you know? I felt like from the application process, I feel like it kind of singed my eyebrows off a little bit, you know? Like, it was very affecting. I was like, I hardly got into this program. I was running out of the temple as it was collapsing around me. So I would have rather have just gotten a huge, like an amazing mark, like a 95 or something, which was what international students pretty much have to get now anyways. So we created these courses through PortPrep because of that gap, because I wanted something that was specific to animation. So this is the animation portfolio bundle that I have up here, but a couple of the courses that are in this bundle you can see them right here on the main animation page. So Animation Fundamentals 1 and 2 right here. This literally takes the Sheridan portfolio, breaks it into, and then that's the courses. So all of the video lectures that I've made for each of those courses are tailored to the portfolio, exactly what you have to do. Not a single, there's no course that's just, or no week that's just like unrelated. It's all completely related to the portfolio. So it's the opposite of what I felt art fundamentals was. It wasn't general, it was extremely specific. It was for people that were serious about getting into animation. And so that's what I wanted when I was getting in, so this is what I made. So there's video lectures and then group feedback and individual feedback if you want to take the individual version of it. So that's basically what I do through PortPrep. But okay, I also want to get back to the things I want to talk about. So there was time management. Sorry, 1 second. Where is it? Yeah. So effective time management, start now, and then basically plan out your weeks. Set goals, break projects down into smaller pieces. If you've come to my Q&As before, you've heard me say this before, but it's super important to, like, if something is big and intimidating to you, the best thing you can do is break it down into the little pieces that make it up, and then tackle each of those little pieces and check them off as you go, as you complete them, to make yourself feel some sense of gratification from having completed it, because otherwise it just seems like sometimes you're just working away and it's like, what did I accomplish? It's like, well, I accomplished a day of preparing to do this. Great, I've got 1 of 5 days of preparing to do this under my belt, and that's one step closer to starting it. Great, that's not a bad way to do it. You need ways to kind of track yourself so that you can see that you're actually accomplishing things over time. That's super important for time management and just for your mental health as you do it, to make you feel like you're actually moving forward. Because so much of the time when we're just sketching endlessly, it's like, where is the goal here? Like, where's the goalpost? I don't know what. Is this helping? Maybe, I don't know. This takes some of the pressure off of you having to think about that and making it more just like a task list. I'm kind of for the almost like the bureaucracy of this in that you just want to make like a list of to-do things for you to do over time that will move you closer to being ready to start the assignment. And then when you're in the assignment, you know, even the hand drawing, it's like, all right, I'm going to do 10 pages of small sketches of my hand prior to even beginning this assignment, so that I've drawn hands from a whole bunch of different points of view, maybe not just my hand, other people's hands, drawing hands from a bunch of different points of view. So prior to starting drawing on my own hand, I've done so much hand drawing, right? Those are great little preparatory steps to get there. And then when you finally start your hand drawing, you can book that date in your calendar somewhere, and then you can start that and do maybe do 3 of them, and then you've got your first hand pose, and then you do 3 of the second hand pose, and then you've got some, you know, then you've done enough. See, that seems like a lot of work, but that's what's required. You need to do above and beyond what is really needed. Even in my courses, we start with the hand drawings, but there's even a certain degree of stuff that you could be doing prior to starting the actual assignment itself. So things like that. So breaking things down into chunks that you can gradually bite away at, so that even when you have no idea what you should draw, You go to your list and you're like, okay, I'm going to do a page of hand sketches. Or next week I'm going to switch it to head block-ins. Or I'm going to do some tonal studies for some thumbnails, for compositions. There's so many things like that that you could do to get more ready. Okay, sorry, I'm just going to answer a few questions here. So of course I think it's worth it to get a tutor, but I'm super biased, so don't ask me. Ask some of my past students, honestly. See if we were helpful, or read our reviews, read our testimonials, and see if we were genuinely helpful for students. Because honestly, if we cease being helpful, I don't want to do this anymore, because I only started doing this because I wanted to help the me's that were going through this now. So yeah, I would have loved to have a tutor rather than have gone to Art Fundamentals, honestly. But also both can be a benefit too. Like, there's enough time in Art Fundamentals to also have a tutor. So totally worth it either way. Okay. If I were to take only one section of the PortPrep class, which one would you recommend? Blue Quinn. I can't recommend just one. Animation Fundamentals 1 and 2 is sort of the minimum, I would say, for if you're doing your portfolio, because those two courses are sort of the bedrock of everything, and all the other courses help. Like the figure drawing anatomy is probably the next one I would recommend, and then after that, the two world building classes, which are, the first one is a deeper dive into character design, because in the Animation Fundamentals 1 we do a little bit of character design. We do like 2.5 weeks of character design, but this is an 8-week course just on character design. So it's kind of the full process that I would go through if I was making a movie and I was designing a character. And then next is not necessarily next. These aren't consecutive courses. You can take one or the other. If you're struggling with perspective, this is our brand new course for this year, the world building and background design. So this is going to be, it's not just about background design, it's also about learning perspective. So if you struggle with perspective, that course is super critical. And so basically this is why we've bundled together everything for the Animation Portfolio bundle. And in this bundle, you also get these 3 amazing art books, which I highly recommend anyways, whether or not you take this bundle or not. And for this bundle, you can also do the group version, or you can do the one-on-one version, and there's a significant price difference just because of the hours involved and me teaching either. So the group, if you take the group, it's much more affordable, and you get all 5 of those classes that I just mentioned, and we do that in the fall and the winter. So that takes you to the portfolio time. So I'm highly encouraging this. This is less than half the price of Art Fundamentals for all 5 of these courses, which is basically an entire semester of art. That's the same thing that you would get at Sheridan, right? It's five courses. And you wouldn't get the art books, but you would get some art supplies. So that's the trade-off there. The base version is Animation Fundamentals 1 and 2. If I were to take nothing else, I would take those. If budget is a thing, if budget is an issue for anyone, always reach out to us. We don't always have sales, but occasionally, like if you've missed a sale recently or something, and it would really help you, then we will give you a little promo code so that you can still have that sale. And occasionally we do scholarships as well. So we do, we take scholarships from private donors, and then that can go towards the occasional student's tuition. That's not very common. I don't think we have too many spots for that this year. But we always love working with students no matter what. So just ask us, mention it to us, and we'll see what we can do. We'll see if there's a special. Okay. Yes. Oh, wow. Yeah. Great. What course would you recommend on top of you're also taking art fundies? So on top of Art Fundamentals, again, this is kind of the same question, but I take Animation Fundamentals 1 and 2 because those are more specific towards the portfolio. So when you're ready to start the portfolio, I would take those 2. Otherwise, any of these, depending on where you're at, this is tailored to you individually. If you really struggle with perspective, which is many students, then background design is a good one. Or if you're another great course, which I don't teach, but my teaching partner Karen does, is drawing fundamentals. This is more of this is an overall course. So it talks a lot about like the beginning aspects of drawing. So if you're still a year or two out from starting your portfolio, or you look at the portfolios that are successful and they're much stronger than yours, then drawing fundamentals might be a great place to start too. So that's absolutely worth considering as well. Let's see. You want to register for... Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Blue Quinn. When does the $2,000 bundle sale end? That's a great question. That'll end after the first week of September, because we're starting it in late September. So the general, if anyone's taking notes, I would take notes of this. For those that are interested in the Animation Portfolio bundle, it is the group version, which again is the $2,000 one. It will begin late September, so the last week of September. So basically the 25th to the 30th, sometime in there. And the reason we start at the same time every year, and the reason that we do this is because after the first round of courses, the second round of courses, even with some time off for Christmas or holidays, it ends around late January. So that still gives you a nice month buffer between when the portfolio is handed in. You know, it's nice to have a little buffer. You don't want to just like finish the course and suddenly you're handing in the portfolio. So yeah, that's kind of how we structure this. So so the first bunch will start in late September, the last weekend. So the sale will probably end around September 13th or 14th. So that's mid-September. And then soon after that is when we send out the voting poll to decide when all of the different classes meetups will be, which is very critical if you're in the group class. Not so much if you're taking the full version of the class, because the full version of the class, we just book it individually because it's just you individually as a student and me. So I send you a link and you can just literally click on the calendar whenever you want to meet up for each class, and I meet you then. And you don't even have to tell me when you want to meet up. You just pick the time yourself. It's all automatic, so it's really awesome actually. But for the group bundle, or for the group class, well, you know, since it's a group class, we all need to meet at the same time. So I do send out a doodle poll where we all vote on a bunch of times that work for everyone. And I always pick the time that the most people can attend, and usually everyone can attend. So it's actually very successful overall. Okay. Oh, great. So that's, I think, all the questions there. Oh, there's one more in the Discord. Should I prioritize uniqueness or should I prioritize minimal errors? I would really okay, well, so this is a question of like creativity versus technicality, the technical ability in your skills. So I suppose, I mean, you kind of need both of those, obviously, but if I were to choose one, I wouldn't sacrifice technical skills for uniqueness, I guess. But again, in a good portfolio, you'll see both. You'll see both of those things. But you don't want to have errors. No errors. Like this is not like a spelling test where it's like, I got 13 out of 15, good enough. This is like, you want to get literally almost perfect on everything, because just do the math of 100% and how many marks you can lose if you get 89% out of 100, which is the domestic cutoff last year, 95 for international students. So there's not a lot of wiggle room. At 95% average for international students, you can only lose 5 marks. So it's so unfortunate, but that's crazy, right? That is the case. So there's very little room for error. Okay, so that I hope answers that a little bit. 1 second. I'm just going to check. Just going to let everyone know in there we go. Okay. Great. So the next part is burnout. I want to talk about burnout. It's a great subject. It scares many people away, both from the industry and from this process. But there's so much that you can do to avoid it, so that's great. And unsurprisingly, it's going to be very similar to what I said about time management. And yes, Helix, we actually do offer one-on-one portfolio sessions. You can see that, you can book that anytime. You can just literally email us and you can book one-on-one sessions. But it's also these. So these intensive art portfolio reviewers, I think we give a little bit of a discount for sign. Yeah, we gave a bit of a discount if you sign up for a bunch of individual sessions. These are literally just like, hey, bring me your entire portfolio and I'll mark everything that I can and correct everything that I can in an hour. So that's how those work. So that's another option if you don't want to do an actual class. Okay, so I hope that helps, Helix. For avoiding burnout, I mean, most of this obviously is planning, just making sure that you're actually completing the assignments at a reasonable interval, but also, you know, aside from just breaking things apart into small bits, you also want to have a general goals for each month. For at the end of September, the end of October, the end of November, the end of December, where do you want to be at the end of each month? Because ideally you're picking away some of those entire portfolio requirements, just making them completely off the list, right? It's worth spending I don't know what the math is on how many portfolio pieces there are. See, with personal work, there's kind of an endless amount of potential work you could do. But yeah, it's another thing I want to talk about. So you just break down so that you are completing your hand drawing and your life drawings. Actually, those two I'd probably do towards the end because you can keep doing life drawing. You should start doing life drawing now, and you should keep at it every month until the portfolio is done. And then basically pick your two best ones by February, and those are the ones that are going in. For something like character design, you could start that now. You could be like, all right, I'm going to have my character rotation done in September, and then I'm going to have my layouts done by the end of October. If you could just achieve those two things, that's a decent chunk of the portfolio. So then you're drastically reducing the chance of you having a bad burnout in February. And then, because the thing about burnout and why I kind of elaborated about this in saying that it reduces your chances of getting it is because what happens is some people have these bad burnouts in early February, and then they kind of just need to recover. You know, with burn, it seems worth it to stay up all night and work on your portfolio, but it's just shooting yourself in the foot. You know, it makes it so much harder to have a productivity over the course of a long period of time if you're burning out all the time and you're working nights like crazy. And also that just gives you a bad working. It's just a bad general thing. You know, it gets you set up to expect that when you're in the industry as well. And then I see some students that graduated and are used to staying up all night and working in the studio, and it's all a lot of fun when you're a student, not so much fun when you're, out in the industry, maybe trying to raise a family and you have, you're working two contract jobs and working at nights. And I see this all the time, and it's it's unhealthy, and it's not a long-term solution. It's not going to make you love the industry of animation. I can tell you that right now. So just for a longevity kind of thing, with loving this industry and loving the artwork and all the stuff that you can, do in it, you're especially too young to be burning out at this point. It's okay to have occasional burnouts where you have a bit of crunch time, and occasionally it can even be fun. A bunch of your friends are in the office and you're still working on a sweet project that you love. Maybe that's fine every now and then, but it's too easy for that to creep into your overall life and to have that happen all the time. So yeah, I don't know. I'm a big advocate of not burning out. Even when I was at Sheridan, I'm one of the few, I would say, that didn't stay up all night ever. I think the latest I stayed up till was 3, and that was it. Even if I had to hand in an assignment that wasn't as good as it could have been, I went to bed and I handed in a mediocre assignment that time, because I knew that if I stayed up all night and did a slightly better job, which is also questionable because you're super sleepy and so you're not creating as good artwork, right? So questionable whether it's even worth it to do that. But say I did a slightly better project, but then I've totally messed up my schedule, my rhythm, my harmony with sleeping schedules, the next several days that I need to then recover from, right? So it's just totally not worth it. So I really encourage everyone to eat well, sleep well, have a healthy lifestyle while you're doing this. You'll have a way better chance at having great work, being inspired, having some space in your life to actually absorb new ideas and think of creative things. Because if you're burning out, you don't think as creatively. I can guarantee it. You just kind of, nothing comes to mind when you're trying to think of ideas. Frida has a question. Do you have any tips on improving on the storyboard section? You're just getting right into the specifics. That part is really difficult for me, and it's hard to know what they're looking for. Yes, the storyboard is notoriously the scariest section. Everyone is most afraid of storyboard, probably that and life drawing. Notoriously the two lowest marked areas. So storyboard, my recommendation is to study, like really get into studying filmmaking. Like see, this is why I want to have a storyboarding course, because this is a whole thing that I want to introduce here. But there's a lot of things that I would do. You need to be interested in filmmaking and really observing good examples of filmmaking and seeing how the edits come together and see how their storyboards are. Even looking at all of the behind the scenes featurettes on storyboarding that are released by DreamWorks, Pixar, Blue Sky, Disney, etc. Looking at all those storyboard sessions. There's a lot of books that I could recommend for storyboarding. Looking at amazing YouTube channels that analyze filmmaking and look at blocking and composition of shots. There's a ton of great examples. What is it called? I can't think of it off the top of my head. I make it mandatory watching for anyone that takes my personal mentorships that wants to get better at storyboarding. That's the other thing I should have mentioned. Actually, the personal mentorships, this is where you basically tell me your struggles, you tell me your challenges artistically, and I literally create a little curriculum for you. It doesn't have the same video lectures that the normal 8-week classes have, but it is customized to you specifically, and I give you daily exercises you can do, and also longer term assignments that are kind of like things that, again, you're picking away at. So these could be portfolio assignments, but if you were to choose something like storyboarding, for example, I would send you YouTube videos to watch that would kind of spark your imagination about this kind of thing. So there's a bunch of them. There's one by a guy named Dan Fox called Blocking and Composition. That's great. And there's 5 C's of Cinematography, which is a book. There's a book by a previous Sheridan prof that was really great named Nancy Beeman on storyboarding. There's a lot of resources out there on storyboarding. There's Every Frame a Painting is a beautiful channel on story, well, not just storyboarding, but all things filmmaking. I guess larger than just how do I get better at storyboarding, it's I want you to all to be curious and interested students of film. I want you to be like observing movies, good examples of movies. I'm looking at you, Marvel. And sorry, anyone that's a Marvel fan, but you know, well, anyways, that's a longer chat. But there's good examples of filmmaking out there. There's so many examples now, and a lot of awesome shows these days that are, you know, you just need to be a little bit more observant and into like the process of it. Just be very curious about that, because when you become curious about that and you start watching some YouTube channels about that analyze it, then suddenly you realize there's a whole world out there of you know, nerds talking about like editing and the transition from one shot to the next, and that's great, because that you're officially in the storyboarding club. But I mean, on a more practical level, an exercise you can do to get better at storyboarding, which is one that we did in first year of animation, is you can look at good examples of film and pause them and draw a little thumbnail of that scene, and then play it again, and then pause the next shot and do a little thumbnail of that scene. I do this still to this day to improve my storyboarding ability. You just take a whole sequence of the movie, and then you literally do little thumbnails of that storyboard. Well, you're looking at the movie, but you're doing a simplified rendering and little sketch in your notebook, so that you can kind of download the shot into your brain and see how the characters were looking and see how they moved. There's a little bit more to that exercise, but it's a little bit too much to get into right now. So I hope that helps a little bit, Frida. Really great question. Storyboarding is notoriously very difficult, but luckily for the Sheridan requirement, it's a really simple storyboard. It's more of a beat board. It's not necessarily from one scene to the next. It's like conveying the beginning, middle, and end, basically, in the resolution of the storyboard theme, which unfortunately does change every year. The little theme that they give you is you know, it changes each year. So you can't really start storyboard now. You can practice, you can do all these exercises I'm mentioning about storyboarding, but I don't know if I would mention the storyboarding to start on right now as a first assignment. Yes, oh Nunu, there is a Sheridan. Actually, could somebody post a link to the Sheridan Hopefuls Discord in the YouTube chat? That would be great, so that anyone that is joining can join that, because it's a great resource. I will also post the PortPrep one, which is right on our homepage here. You can just go to it here. Here it is. Here is the PortPrep Discord. Join both. In the PortPrep one, we also have the little servers for our individual courses. So when you take one of our courses, there's a little chat channel for that course. So yeah, but also the Sheridan Hopefuls one is booming. Lots of people on there. It's so great. So yes, I'm just gonna. So I talked about burnout a little bit. Mostly how to avoid it is just to plan well and treat your body well. Like, don't just run yourself into the ground. Take time for life. You know, do stuff. Hang out with friends. Don't read books. I'm a big fan of reading books. I think I posted the Sheridan, the PortPrep Discord, not the Sheridan Discord, Frida. So if you want to grab that link, I'm not sure where it is right now. Yeah, just basically take breaks and pace yourself. If you need a break, you have to take it. It's not worth powering through. I can almost guarantee it. Except maybe in late February, if you need to. But again, if you plan properly, you won't have to have such an intense time in February. Okay, wow, it's already 6 o'clock for all of you in Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, the next thing is, well, just mental health and expectations. So yeah, I mean, if this is your first time applying, like I said before, absorb as much as you can. Just absorb content and just look at all the other portfolios that have been successful. On our testimonials page, I always do an interview with all of our students, and I'm horribly behind. There's like 6 or 7 interviews that I've yet to edit together from last year, but I'll have more soon. But these are some of our past students that have gotten in and done awesomely. You can see these percentages here. We also have a YouTube playlist with all these on it too. So yeah, these are. I asked them lots of questions, and they share a lot of tips that they all have about it. So it's really worth checking. All of them out really, because the more you can absorb, the more notes you can take about what leads to success. Then that's very much a lot of the work that I do in my courses. That's what that's what I'm communicating to my students. So yeah, so just absorb a lot of content involving people that have gotten in previously. That's a great way to see what kind of stuff they're looking for. I mentioned personal work earlier. That's something that you can absolutely do now, and make it relevant for animation. You want your personal work not just to be the dumpster fire of all of the homework that you did in high school for random abstract high school art courses. That's not as relevant. We need to have work that can be at least parallel or comparable skills that you might bring into animation, because it needs to. The closer it is to the field of animation, the better, right? That's great. So yeah, you want your personal work to be targeted. You want it to be very specific. And honestly, the personal work, in my opinion, should be spent the most amount of time on, because I don't want. The worst scenario is when you just kind of whatever art is left over, you chuck that in your personal work. That is not a good way to go about it. Personal work should be planned and should be written out and tackled in the same manner as the rest of the portfolio, because the personal work is honestly where you get to show who you are and what you're most interested in and what you love drawing, what you love painting. So the personal work is really your time to shine. That's where you can be really unique, right? So do not discount the personal work. It's super important. Okay, so there's not too many more questions that there might be one in the Q&A. Don't know when the open house is. Sorry, Sky. Oh, wow. Gauge your artwork to know if it's good enough for Sheridan. Any advice being confident in your own art? Well, again, like I said, I would watch these testimonials and see where their artwork is. And there's a lot of different styles in here too, so that's great. See where their skill levels are and compare it to your own. And not as a way to demotivate yourself. It is not, you have so much time to improve from now over the next several months. So, just look at their work and be like, all right, they're doing this a lot better than me. But I think I have some really great ideas too, right? Like, you all have great ideas. It's always the execution that is the tricky part. So, but your ideas, I'm sure all of you have awesome original ideas. It's just how to execute that and how to make that, how to choose the best angle of that image to convey that story beat that you want to, how to add the right colors into a scene to make it feel how you want it to feel. So that's something that you can work on over the next several months. But how to be confident in your own art, that is not something you can just have suddenly. That confidence shows up when you're not expecting it, when you've done a whole bunch of work and trials that, I'll admit it. There are times when it's really hard to stay positive about your own artwork. I was there. I remember, looking at my artwork and looking at all the other students, especially as someone that just squeaked into the program, and being like, wow, I've got so far to go. But instead of letting that cripple me, it would make me feel not great every now and then. But rather than letting it totally throw me off my path, I would use that as fuel to improve and to be like, okay, this is what they're, and talk to those people, right? Be like, how did you do this? How did you get so good? What did you do? That kind of thing. That confidence shows up over time. There's no shortcut to that, unfortunately. But also realize that there's so many months between now and February, and you've got so much time to improve. So there's absolutely room for everyone here to make an amazing portfolio. But you got to be on this. You got to be treating it seriously, like it's your first. Well, it's more important than everything. It's more important than your full-time job. It's more important than school right now, at least, as long as you have a 65 average. That's all you need. Paulo says, I heard that using content in newsprint can really improve your score for life drawing sections. Yes, I mean, you use content in the animation program, but really you can use whatever you want as long as it's good. But the thing with pencil is that pencil tends to tighten up your drawings. So Conte, you're drawing with your full arm, which is how I teach in my figure drawing and anatomy class. So, it's absolutely possible. It's possible to get 10 out of 10 using pencil too, but you need to draw expressively, and you need to draw with a knowledge of anatomy and with a certain degree of confidence and effortlessness that I think is hard to, life drawing is hard. I simply feel more comfortable drawing with pencil than Conte. Okay, then I'd love to see your pencil drawings. I would love to make sure that they're not too tight, because often pencil is. But Conte you can get used to. I have some lessons for that in my life drawing course. It's kind of how you hold it and how you wear down the Conte stick that helps able to kind of use it in a more intuitive way. Conte is absolutely a beautiful medium, but it can be frustrating early on. What kinds of things do you recommend putting in personal work? That is personal to you, Dana. So if you love character design, I want to see some colored characters, maybe a character lineup of a whole bunch of different characters from one show or movie from your brain. Maybe a character in an environment. Maybe a comic with a bunch of characters that are drawn from a bunch of different views. So that's just character, but if it's say you want to do visual development, I want to see lots of color work. I want to see lots of work that conveys a certain mood, that feels like a snapshot of a movie, a little keyframe image that could be taken out of a larger context. So if you want to be good if you want to do story art or storyboarding, tons of storyboards in your personal work. An animatic that you've edited together in something like Adobe Premiere or After Effects. You make things that are relevant to what you're interested in. A certain degree of breadth is good, but it's okay to be passionate about one area and to communicate that. So that's what I would recommend for personal work. Okay. Anime styled art in my personal artworks kill my marks. This is a hard one. This is a common question for sure. It seems to be killing less marks these days than it did 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I was told not to put any anime in my portfolio. And I think there's been a lot of pushback about that. But it's less about anime like style. It's more about how there's so many styles within anime. Anime isn't one style, right? So it needs to feel like structural three-dimensional characters. They don't want to see it like the overly emotive. I don't know. I don't have the right terminology to describe it, but you kind of know it when you see it, like the over-the-top anime. That's just like it's more of an emoticon than an animation. Let's put it like that. You know, like that kind of thing isn't valuable. You need to have characters that feel believable, that we can identify with, that we can empathize with. Those are the kind of characters we want to see, and whether that's anime or not. I wouldn't necessarily encourage anime just because of the old, like rumor, but I don't know. I've seen students include anime and they've done perfectly well. So, but usually it's good anime. It's like really good anime. So again, there's a huge variation there. So that's that can of worms, just slightly dabbled in. Original character illustrations, I think is what that stands for. Yes, they want to see original artwork. Fan art notoriously doesn't do as well. Every now and then people won't know if it's fan art or not, which is fine, but I don't know. It's like, why not make your own character and not have to worry about that, I guess? Like, why is it so much more engaging for everyone to draw fan art? That's my question that I always kind of ask everyone. Some 3D artwork, great idea. Like, why not? If you're interested in 3D artwork, then put some 3D artwork in. It's not mandatory. It's not necessarily going to improve your portfolio if you're not good at it. But like, well, actually, you see this student's thing over here. They did a character design that was incredible. Right here, I don't know if you can see this, but watch that one. Watch Cassidy's successful student story, because she did an incredible 3D character from Blender, free 3D software, and just blew it out of the park, and clearly did. I think she got perfect on her personal work. So that was incredible, right? So that's really great. So definitely 3D work can help, but again, it's got to be good. Everything's got to be good. Just for doing it, you don't get any points. It's got to be good 3D work. Okay. Yes. Thanks. I think Karen's here. Thanks, Karen, for the backup. So Karen's my teaching partner. I think she's also present here. So we did have my first year life drawing teacher from Sheridan Animation, who was so great. He was at our portfolio camp that we did over the summer just a couple weeks ago. And he mentioned also to avoid work that is derivative. That's a great word. I got to use that word more. That's what I'm talking about. Like, just it shouldn't feel like it's the same kind of thing. So even if it is your unique character, don't make it super similar to other characters. Try to stand out as much as you can. That's really a great thing that you can do to just ensure that you're your own artist. We want to see you. We want to see your work. Not just the same stuff that's already existing. This is a great question. It'd be great to have Mark here, Karen, for to answer this one. Can the people scoring the figure drawing section tell if a figure is drawn from an image? I have no access to live drawing sessions in my area, so I kind of have to rely on images. Yeah, so this is a very realistic concern. And if you don't have local life drawing, then what can you do aside from having some really comfortable friends that you have that can model for you? I mean, so many students use photos. It's just a reality in so many places in the world. And my tip for you is to cover your tracks as best as you can. Because you cannot ensure that... Sometimes you just can't have live drawing sessions. So you have to use photos. You have to use what you have around you. But it is good to work from life as much as possible if you can. But I don't know if they can see if, I've seen people do perfectly well that have worked from photos in their life drawing, so whether they can or they can't, it's very hard to tell, but sometimes they can. There's certain giveaways, like when a camera looks like it's obscured, the proportions of a limb, like when arms coming at you and the arm's drawn really big, that's an effect that a camera will give you. So there's things like that can give yourself away, but yeah. Start working on a portfolio even if I'm a junior in high school. That's a great question. You have a lot of time to plan, but just keep drawing, Air Fryer. That's a hilarious name. Just, there's so many things that you can get ready. I would take our Drawing Fundamentals course. That's one thing that if you're a little younger, Drawing Fundamentals would be a great idea. And you can, I would take only the animation courses when you're getting a little closer to actually being ready to apply for animation. So that's my tip to you. We also have personal mentorships that you can kind of have, and you can schedule as you want. So you can take the 12-week personal mentorship and then have one a month for the next 12 months. That's a way to have some degree of accountability with one of our teachers, so that you're actually producing work regularly, and we review your work once a month, and that can be a nice dynamic too. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up soon because dinner is ready, I believe. Let's see, drawing on model for the storyboarding, I'm guessing. So Helix, I mean, look at that model sheet. There are times from certain angles I've noticed from the storyboard where if you have a certain angle, you have to invent the character a little bit, because they only give you a few views. So it's a little difficult. You have to do a little bit of using your imagination to kind of figure out how something would look. And my tip for character design, when you don't have all the views of a character, is to make it look as close to the character as possible. Don't draw necessarily what would be realistic. There's a strong distinction there that takes more time to touch on. If I could draw it, like if things are coming right at the camera, it's often not worth it to draw them coming right at the camera. So you have to change the position of it a little bit. You kind of have to fake it so that it looks like it's out of the way. It's a little bit more clear. Yeah, okay. I've talked about personal work a bunch. So what I would recommend putting in is things that you are passionate about. You need to communicate what you're interested in within the field of animation, whether it's characters or comics or storytelling or maybe a little bit of all. You make targeted pieces for each one of your personal works that show your range and show your adaptability to different mediums. So a comic, maybe a little storyboard that's timed out in a video format, which is called an animatic, using Adobe After Effects or something. That's great. Honestly, I don't see enough storyboards in personal work. That's something that I think is an untapped area. Film study as personal work, maybe only part of the sketchbook portion, Frida. I wouldn't have that be its own thing, because you're just kind of drawing from an existing film. I would do your own storyboard as an individual personal work. But yeah, if you could do that for your sketchbook and show that you're studying filmmaking, that's not a bad idea. So yeah. Okay, everyone. Well, I've touched on all the areas I'd like to, and I've answered a whole bunch of questions. But I'll probably do another one of these like a week before the animation bundle launches. So yeah. So for anyone that's curious, maybe I don't know, our courses, there's a lot going on, so I understand if you're a little bit confused. But if you are confused about anything that I've mentioned, here is my email, my personal email. Just email me, ask me any questions, or find me in Discord and just send me a direct message. Okay, so yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed this, and yeah, I'll see you soon, and I'll do more Q&As throughout. Even in usually November or so, I start to do some actual like draw-overs of work. Like I'll take like everyone's life drawing or something, do like an hour of life drawing draw-overs. So yeah, that's forthcoming, but I'll announce that in both the Sheridan Hopefuls Discord and the PortPrep Discord. So jump in there if you haven't already. I think here I'm just gonna grab the link to the Sheridan Hopefuls one. Yeah, so here's the Sheridan Hopefuls invite right there. Great. Well, I hope this is helpful. It looks like it was. That's awesome to hear. All right, thanks for coming, everyone. Take care.